Hello guys, my name is Khan, and actually in today's video we will cover almost all of the main concepts that we have gone through in our previous videos. So in this video I will create a summary dashboard which will be covering all the features as I said that we have covered before. So we'll be seeing that how you can import data set, how you can create new variable, how you can use how you can use when condition while creating new variables or categorical variables, how you can blend data and how you can use filters in Google Data Studio, and then finally how you can share your report with other users. So this video will be a bit covering everything, so I will be going through each important concept one by one, but probably in a quicker way. And suppose if you are getting confused, I will refer you to go to my previous videos in case of any issue. So for this video we will be using two datasets. The first dataset, the main dataset that we will be using is US Census 1. This is a kind of a similar dataset that I have used before. So in this you can see that we have variables like this, and again if you are dealing with the date in Google Data Studio, make sure that the date variable is in year, month, date, day format. Again, year, month, day format. Otherwise, you will get an error. And my next US Census second data set is a kind of a smaller data set, but it have the variable year and status. So the status is related to the states which are poor and the states are which are rich. So there is a two categorical variable. And again, if the join between these two sets, the US Census 1 and US Census 2, if you want to merge these two datasets, the key identifier is the state, because each row is unique at the state level. So I will be using these two datasets, especially at the stage when I want to merge those datasets or want to blend these datasets. So this is a quick overview about the data that I will be using for this video. So the next thing is that I will take you guys to the Google Data Studio. So this is the Google Data Studio, and I will be starting with a new report. For this, I will say add a report. And after adding a report, the first thing is that I want my data sets. So the first thing I will bring is my create new data source. The data is already in a CSV file in my drive. So I will say click to upload file. This is the data that I want to bring. Open, it's connecting. So once the processing will complete, the connect button will allow us to add that data to our report. Okay, now we can add. So as you can see, this is their same field that I have shown you guys previously in that data. I will say add to report. Again, add to report. So the data got added to my report, and I will name it as summary report. And again, the first thing I want to do, I want to create a header of this report before starting adding graphs. So I will be using this rectangle, which is a kind of you can say more kind of a visual feature. So I think this will be fine, or make it a bit shorter. After that, I will be writing down a text box to name my, so it will be the name, a kind of a header of my report. And here I will add the text summary dashboard. You can name it whatever you want. Again, the color tone looks fine, so I will change it to white. By you see it here, you can change it to white. I can increase the font size to 28. I want it into the center, so now it looks fine to me. Again, I can more align it in the center now I think it's look good. So this is the summary of summary dashboard, and we have created a heading in our dashboard. Now the next thing I want to create, add a time series graph. Again, it's very simple. We have already added the data, so I will say time series. We have a date variable, and Google Data Studio have created a chart on which the date is on the x-axis, on the y-axis we have the population variable. But here what it's doing is that it's showing us all the sum of the population for the given date for different states. But suppose I want to have two lines which is differentiating between the states which have poor status and the states which have rich status. In order to do that, what I will need is I will need first to blend data, because I have currently imported my data, which is US Census 1, but the status variable which differentiate the states between rich and poor is in the second data set, which is US Census _2. So first thing that I also have to add that data set into my report. So in order to do that, what I usually do is that I will just duplicate this graph, and once I will duplicate it, so I'm currently in the second graph, which is the duplicated graph of my first graph. I will just remove this data source. I'm just doing it to add the second data source to my report. There are many other ways, but I think this is the more quicker way. So I will select the data. So I will say create new data source. And now I will select it here. Again, I want the second dataset now. Open. It's loading the file. Once the processing will get complete, I will connect it. Okay, now I can connect. Add to report. Again, add to report. So the second dataset got added, but now I don't need this dataset. I will just delete it because I did that thing to add. So now in my report, I have added two datasets, the US Census 1 and the US Census 2. But now I can again duplicate this graph, and I will take it on the right side. And now I want to also show this graph based on status. So if it's poor, so I want two lines for poor states and for rich states. Currently, it's showing us the overall picture of our data and not differentiating between poor and rich states. So in order to do that, you can see here this graph is based on US Census 1, but my updated graph should be based on two data set. One of the variable will be, two variables will be coming from US Census 1, which will be date and population, whereas the third variable based on which I want to create dimension or is the status, which is, you can see, is not here in the available field, which will be coming from the US Census 2. So in order to do that, I need to use this blend data option. So I will use this blend data option. So here what I will do, I don't need anything in matrix. So I will first add another data source. And the first thing I need to define is the data that I want to use. As I have already added the data, therefore you can see that here is an option US Census 2. I will select it, and the first thing is to define the join keys. The join keys between these two datasets is the state variable. So first what I will do, I will add the state variable here for US Census 1 as the join key, and automatically for US Census 2 it have added the state here again. And the second thing what I will do, I will add the other variables that I will be using in my graph, which will be the one variable which will be date, and the second variable that I will be using is the population. I will add under the dimension. Make sure that you are adding it under the dimension heading. And here the thing that I need from this data is status. So I will add status under the dimension, and now I will say save, and then I will say close. So currently what happening is that it have added state as a break dimension, but I don't want state as a break dimension. I will click it and I want status, and you can see after blending I have the status variable. I will select it, and now you can see that I can now our graph got updated, and we have two states, poor and rich, and the data is shown based on these two categories. So in this way we have quickly gone through how you can blend data. The next thing I will do is that I want to create new variables in my US Census 1 data. So what I will need to do is, suppose if I want to insert, so suppose if I go back to select my first data set, and under you can see that I am currently in US Census 1, and here I want to create new variables for this data source that I've already added. In order to do that, I will use this create new field. I will click it, and so I will create a new variable. Suppose if I want to have a variable which will be having log of population, so I want to take a log. So I'm just giving an example. If you want to use some functionalities, there are some functions that you can use in Google Data Studio. So I will say for log there is a function like log, and between that you have to specify the variable name, population. So if it get highlighted in green, it means that it's a variable, and there is a tick sign here, it means that your formula is fine. So I can save it. So now if I scroll down here, you can see that there is a variable got added, and I can finish it. So I finished it, but suppose if I want to add another variable, suppose if I want to create a categorical variable which will be differentiating states but based on the population. So suppose if I want to say that create a variable, suppose population category. So if the population is above 5 million, consider that state as a high population state, and if the population is less than 5 million, consider that state as low population states. So what I will need to do, I will be using a when condition while creating a new field or new variable. So I will select it again. I will name it as population category, and here what I will do, I will use case. So I want to create a categorical variable, therefore I will start from case. It's better because the case functionality ends with n, and between that I will be using when condition. So I will be saying when population is greater than equal to 5 million, then assign high population to this population cat, else assign it as low population. So as you can see, the green sign appears here. It means everything is fine. I can save it and I can finish it. So now I suppose if I want to create a bar graph based on the categories, let's see that if I insert a bar graph now, so I will say bar chart. This is the bar chart which is based on US Census 1 data. I will just make it bigger, but here it's showing me the dimension state. I don't want to create it based on state. And again, I don't want to create it based on US Census 2. I want to create it based on US Census 1. So I will remove it I will say select data source. My data source is this one. So let's say okay. Again, here the dimension is use country, but I want to see based on the population cat. As you can see, that there is a variable population underscore cat got added in my US Census 1 because we have created new field under US Census 1. So what I will do, I will just drag that variable to dimension. So now you can see that we have a bar graph which is showing that the population, sum of population in high populated states and low populated states, which seems fine. So the next thing that I would like to show you guys that how you can add filters. So suppose if you want to add filter into your report. So there are mainly two kind of filters you can add. So you can add filter based on the categorical variable. So suppose we have a variable like region which divides because this data set is about USA, that region variable divides the data into 4 categories. So, and you can focus on those regions if you want to see your graphs according to each region. How you can do that? So it's very simple. You can use this filter control. I will add it. So it's have by default have added country, but I will change it. I want the region variable, not the country variable. So I will add it here. First I will change the style a bit. So I want the text to be in white. I can increase the font size a bit. 24. So it seems fine. So, and again I will go to data. Instead of country, I want to add region variable as a dimension. So things fine. So what currently in an edit view, let's go to the view mode. So currently this graph is based on all the data, but now I have added the filter. So if I use the filter, as I said, that region variable contains 4 categories: south, west, north central, and northeast. And here you can see that it's showing the sum of the population. It's not much important, but the important thing is that once I will say that only select south, all my data, all my graphs got updated according to only the states in the south. And the second thing to note here is that this filter is applicable to the whole page. So if there is a second page, this filter will not be applicable. Again, this filter is only applicable on the given page. So again, I will go back to my edit view. So this is the filter control that we have added. In the same way, if you have a date variable in your data set, you can also add date range control. But again, before using date range control, make sure that your date format is in year, month, and day in your data. Otherwise, you will get errors. The dangerous thing is that maybe Google Data Studio don't give you an error, but while doing calculation, it may consider the data in a wrong way, and probably will see the things is happening rightly, but maybe things are not going to the right direction. So make sure that your date format is in year, month, and day format. So I will say date function. I can go to the right side this time. I can change the styles to make it a bit more prominent. Right, increase the font size a bit to 24. So things looks fine now. Currently we have just very few data, just almost 1.5 months. So if I go to my view mode now, and if I select here, my currently data is from 1993 and it's 1.5. So let's go to 94. If I select the year 94 and I select January, suppose 10th of January, and my end date is in 1994. And suppose I select only the 31st of January, apply. So my data got updated according to the filter I have applied. So you can see things got updated according to the filter I have applied. So there is no data above 31st January, and the data is starting from the 10th Jan. And even my bar graph is also showing only the data which comes under that date range. So we have applied the filters control. Again, what I will do, I will go back to my edit, my edit view. So the last thing is, so this is the dashboard that we have created. In the same way, you can also insert a kind of Geo Maps here on your graph. Before adding the Geo Maps, make sure, because there is no geo variable, even the state variable, you can use it as a geo. I think let's see, give it a chance that if you able to convert state variable as a geo. So I can change it. So I have to change the type. The state is not text. I want to consider it as geo, and the geo is as the region. Goes continue, finish. And suppose if I add state as a region dimension, as you can see, now we have added a geograph based on the state variable. So suppose this is a kind of a very basic dashboard that I have created within this video, and you can see that we have blended data, we created filters, and we have added if condition through when, and we created graphs. So it's a kind of a good thing, especially if you're a new learner, so you can get an idea how you can build your own dashboard in Google Data Studio. The last thing is that you want to do now is you want to share this dashboard with other people. So again, in the edit view, you can see that there is a share the report option here. Even in the view mode, if you go to your view mode, there is also an option share. So you can share it from view mode or from the edit mode. Both are the same. So if I click it here, the sharing, you can do it through two ways. You can share the link of your report, or you can share with your colleagues or with your friends through the email. So, but there are two ways of sharing. One is that with the audience, you want to share it as a viewer, or you also want to give them the right to edit. So once they will get the right to edit, they will be able to add data set, they will be able to remove data set, they will be able to add graphs. You can say that they can do whatever they want, but under the view, they will just able to view the report, or they can use the filter options that you have. So suppose in this report we have filter control and date filters. They will be able to use those filters to see how the data change, but they don't have, but they will not get access to the data sets. So here, if you look at this pencil button, if you click it, so can edit, can view. So you have to opt it according to your need. Again, if you go to this link also gives two options that you want to give it as a can view or also can edit. So you have, and there are also many other options which are here. So you can play around with these options, but be careful while sharing these reports with others. Done. So in this video, finally we covered almost all the basic things, or very basic, or the things that are very essential for the users to make any kind of report in Google Data Studio. Thank you for watching the video.